Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be the video that I know many of you have been waiting for, and that is the HK USP 45 Tactical versus the HK 45 Tactical, and which one I would prefer, which one do I think is better. There are a few ways that you can support my channel. You can head down below right now to that description and check out some of those links. The very first link down in that description is to the Firearm Freedom merchandise store. This is not a sponsored video, so if you want to support what I do, you can head to that merch store, check out some awesome new edgy shirts that I came out with. There's 8 new designs, really high quality stuff, and I would greatly appreciate you repping the brand and also supporting the channel. If you want to make sure you are not being censored out of existence here on YouTube, you can interact with this video by commenting down below, liking it, hitting the subscribe button. That interaction should make sure that these videos actually show up in your feed and you don't miss out whenever I drop something new. I had a ton of requests to do this video. It all started when I did a post, one of my daily posts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also the HK Reddit page. And I made a post essentially asking which one everyone thought was better and comparing the two. If you guys don't already know, the HK USP 45 is the OG tactical 45 variation that HK produced, and they kind of morphed it into what is now the HK 45 Tactical. This is still being manufactured along with the USP 45 Tactical, so you could get either option. They are still being manufactured by HK. I know a lot of people have kind of some heated opinions either way for the HK 45 or the USP 45, and I'm rather biased myself. When it comes to these guns though, obviously, I own both of them, I bought both of them, and I have absolutely no plans on selling either one. In fact, I absolutely love the HK-45. I still think it's a great pistol, and I also love the USP-45. I think they're both good. When we're looking at both guns, there was a lot of complaints with the USP-45 as far as just ergonomics, rail, and things like that. Both of the tactical variations of these pistols are going to include a 16x1 left-hand threaded barrel and also raised suppressor height sights. Now, this is relatively new for the HK-45 as far as the raised suppressor height sights. This started to happen when they started to produce these pistols in the United States. You will see on here that the HK-45, it's really tough to make out, but it is made in the USA, and that is going to be different, of course, from the USPs, which are made in Germany. Along with the tactical models, you also get upgraded internals as far as recoil springs and other things like that to accommodate the suppressor safely for the pistol without causing any issues. I just dropped a review of the USP 45 Tactical. You can check that out in the link up in the right-hand corner of the screen. And I also have way back a first impressions video of the HK 45 Tactical. This is probably in need of an update video relatively soon. When we're comparing the USP 45 to the HK 45, some other minor differences that you will notice are a 12-round magazine in the USP 45. And when it comes to a 45 ACP pistol, 12 rounds plus 1, 13 rounds total is pretty good capacity for the overall size that the pistol has. Now, with the HK-45, it is down to a 10-round magazine. And the primary reason why they slimmed it to 10 rounds was because of the grip. If you guys haven't noticed already, when we're comparing the grip from the USP to the HK-45, you can see that we have much more of a VP9 or more so P30 style grip on the HK-45. And I have to admit, it is most definitely very comfortable and very ergonomic. It reminds me quite a bit like my P30, and I absolutely love that grip. You have the finger grooves there. I typically prefer the small backstrap, and that's just me. It allows me to get a better purchase on the gun. But regardless, you have interchangeable back straps. The only thing that is different with these grips compared to the VP9 or the P30 is that the side panels cannot be switched out. So that is just something that, you know, you'll have to live with. Really not the end of the world. But in order to get this slimmer, more ergonomic grip, they had to slim down the magazine. When we're looking at the two magazines, you can see an ever so slight difference between the two. And it's about the same width in that direction, but in the back it is definitely a little bit thinner. Now, when you were originally looking at the USP, when it first came out, it came out in 40 cal to begin with, if I remember correctly, and that grip is a little bit slimmer. It's a little bit easier to hold in the hand. The 45 grip did chunk out a little bit. Now, in my opinion, the USP grip for the 45 is not bad at all. For me, it's still a very ergonomic grip. That's just my opinion. That's how it feels in my hand, and I know a lot of people agree. There were others on the market that wanted a slimmer, more ergonomic grip. This is going to be my first point towards the USP, and here's the reason why. I would much rather have a still ergonomic grip, but maybe a little bit more of a boxy grip and have 2 extra rounds for 13 total, than have a slimmer grip that does feel a little bit better in the hand, but I now lose 2 rounds. And in the world of handguns, that's a big deal. That's a big difference as far as overall capacity when we're looking at a gun this large. If you're comparing the overall size, I mean, this is larger than a Glock 17. In that bone stock configuration, I have 18 rounds. This is larger and heavier than that gun, and now I'm only down to 10 plus 1, 11 rounds total. That is a big, big difference. Now, we still have a capacity issue over here with only 12 rounds plus 1, 13 rounds total. However, 13 rounds, in my opinion, is still going to be better than 11. And I have to say that this is why I give the first point to the USP. So you could argue that you could put a point towards the HK45 for overall ergonomics, but I would much rather have the capacity. Another difference that they made to these guns is the mag release. So the older style mag release here on the USP is smaller. This is something you could argue may be more difficult for people to get to. In my opinion, I don't really have an issue with it, but I have handed a USP over the counter to somebody at the gun shop that I work at multiple times, and they may not be used to the paddle release, and if you're not used to the paddle release, this smaller paddle release is most definitely going to be harder to get to, especially when they start trying to go after it with the thumb and not the trigger finger. But in my opinion, it's really not terrible. Now, on the HK45, they did extend the mag release, and I will say it's definitely easier to get to. So I would give the point there to the HK45 for the new and improved mag release. To move on to the trigger guard, there is a slight difference. It's going to be tough to pick up on camera, but when you are looking inside the trigger guard here, I'm going to try to get as much light in there as I can. You can see it's just a totally smoothed out surface on the USP 45. Now this, just with the way that their trigger's designed in double action, you tend to want to kind of, your finger tends to slowly start dropping on the trigger, and it will rub a tiny bit on the trigger guard. And that's just me, that's my finger. You could kind of maneuver it in your hand to make sure that doesn't happen, but I find a lot of the time, just with how their trigger is designed, my finger wants to slide down the gun. Now in this case, that's not going to be an issue at all because it's just, you know, a flat surface there. On the HK45, it's very similar to the P30 and the VP9, and there's a small little track kind of grooved out in there, and that is for the trigger. As you can see, it rides in that track. Now most of the time I can kind of keep my finger up on the trigger, but I have noticed quite a bit at the range that it will slowly drop down, and it's not the end of the world, but it is noticeable. I feel that little track there. It is a little bit uncomfortable. And guys, at this point, it is a little bit of a nitpick on these guns. I'm really trying to break down every little part to really give them the best overview that I possibly can. But I do feel that a lot of the time, and there is occasionally a comfort issue with that track. I feel it kind of rub on my finger, and I got to readjust a little bit. So I would prefer it to be flat in there, and that's just me. Maybe it could be a little bit of a different profile with the trigger, but that may not be an issue that everybody has. In the case of the trigger guard, I would have to give it to the USP 45. Now, when we're looking at slide release for the pistols, they did give an ambidextrous slide release, just like the P30 over here on the HK45. I really like that feature. I think that is awesome on all these guns, especially for lefties or whatever. Yes, you can just, rack the slide if you're a lefty, but of course it is nice to have options. These slide releases are very, very easy to get to. I can get to it on either side with my thumb, no problem at all. And if for whatever reason the slide is overly tight to close, you can pull both of them down at the same time. Makes it super, super easy to close. I've never had that issue myself, but it is nice, again, to have that option. On the USP 45, we have a little bit more of an old school mindset, obviously, with just the slide release on the left-hand side of the pistol for a right-handed shooter. Not the end of the world, but in this case, I would have to give the win to the HK45 Tactical. The safety slash decocker on these models is very similar with each pistol, but the USP is slightly different. It's just a little bit more beefier. I don't really know how to explain it. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but on the USP 45, I have never had the issue, whether it's this pistol or other USPs that I've shot with hot ammunition, of having this recoil up and decocking the gun mid-firing sequence. I've never had that problem before. Now, with the HK45, I have had that issue. I don't know if it's because this is longer or because the gun is a little bit lighter. We'll get into shootability in a minute, but recoil might be a little bit more felt. But it has happened to me. That first range day, we were shooting some Hornady plus P, and I decocked it mid-firing sequence, and it just cranked it into double action. It felt super weird. I'm going to try to throw that footage up in the back roll, but it just definitely felt bizarre. This is, in my opinion, going to be an issue for a lot of folks. I would highly recommend switching this out to the safety only setting, and that's what a lot of other people have done. It just prevents you from doing that. I think the overall size of this decocker does lend to those issues. The USP, I actually think it would be just fine to leave that as a decocker. A lot of people might disagree, but not an issue here, an issue here. So in this case, the USP, again, would have to take the win. As far as the pick rail for mounting lights and accessories, we actually have a standard Picatinny rail on the HK45, whereas on the USP, as I've mentioned in the review, you're going to need an adapter to get a Picatinny rail. Here, we're using a GG&G adapter to get the TLR1, whereas on the HK45, any standard light's going to plop right on there, no problem at all. This is going to be a huge benefit when it comes to finding a holster for the HK45. So accessory-wise, holsters are going to be much more available. The USP 45 Tactical is incredibly difficult to find holsters for because you may be using a GG&G adapter, you might be using another adapter, you might have a light that goes directly to that old school style single slot rail. It's going to be tough to find a holster, and I've definitely had issues tracking one down. Stay tuned. I know you guys want to see which one I found. This, I think, is definitely a little bit of an issue for the USP when it comes to modern day. At the time this was created, that was awesome, but nowadays it's just kind of a pain in the ass, and if you're looking to use it for a practical purpose, although this has some cool factors still, it's definitely a hit towards the USP, and I would have to give the win to the HK45. Touching briefly on the first performance issue that I have seen with the HK45 that I have not seen with the USP 45 is reloads. What do I mean by reloads? I have never ever had a problem with the USP mags sticking in the gun. They always fly out as they should. No matter what angle I'm at, they fly out. I could be almost at a complete right angle with the pistol and they still fly out. I've never ever had a problem, and that's huge at the range. That really does make a big deal. I really like that with the USP. With the HK45, I don't know why this has consistently been a problem. I'll try to find video of it when I go to reload. If I'm straight up and down, the mag drops free like it should. But even when I'm not holding tightly, if I go to the side, I'm not even close to a 90 degree there, the mag sticks a little bit, right? And I mean, you could like shake it out, but it definitely has a little bit of a sticking point where all of a sudden it doesn't want to drop free. This is not just this HK45. I've seen it with every HK45 that I picked up. Every once in a while, I'll go to get that mag out, and oop, I just got to rip it out, you know, or shake the gun a little bit, and then the mag comes out. I can put the new one in. I think it's just because of the way that the mag well is designed in the HK45, trying to get that slimmer grip. It's just going to create that issue. And maybe the way that the magazine is profiled, I don't know why that happens. Maybe you guys can chime in down in the comments if that's happened to you. But I've noticed it. And in this case, I would have to give the magazine ejection, if you will, to the USP. The USP definitely takes the win in that department. Both of these guns are rated for pretty much +P+ or 45 super ammunition, so that is huge from HK. Pretty much nothing that you put in here is going to give these guns problems as far as power is concerned, and they can also take a steady diet of it. You still have a recoil reduction system in the slide of the HK45 as well as the USP 45. The recoil reduction system of the HK45 is going to be this buffer here. We've gone to a single spring design for their recoil system, and it works well. But on the USP 45, you have this buffer built into the back here, so it's kind of this weird pseudo dual spring system in their recoil spring. And then you also have a ton of extra mass in the USP 45 slide compared to the HK 45. They've slimmed the slides down a little bit, and you can see slightly there. It's just mainly on width on the sides of it, but I do believe the added width and just overall size and mass of the slide on the USP 45 mixed with their OG dual spring system here really does dampen the recoil more than the HK45. Now, when I say dampens it more, I don't mean that the HK45 recoils heavily or anything like that. This is still an incredibly soft shooting 45 ACP polymer frame pistol. It just is. But I will say that if you're comparing them both side to side, the USP shoots softer than the HK45. So I would have to give recoil reduction system. The win, again, goes to the USP. When we're getting into just shootability as a whole, how do they handle at the range? How are they doing at the range when it comes to rapid firing and other things? It's very, very similar. But I will say, again, with that recoil reduction system, I think overall shootability is a little, ever so slightly, tiny bit better with the USP, and that's for me. That's going to be a personal preference between the two. Although it is more ergonomic, I do notice just a little bit more movement, a little bit more felt recoil when it comes to shootability. So in this case, again, I would have to give the win to the USP. Accuracy-wise, I would say they're about matched. It's pretty much a tie between the two. They're both incredibly accurate guns. They both have their O-ring seal there because that is their match setup in their tactical models. So again, you have an O-ring seal on the USP. And honestly, I would imagine the barrel is pretty much damn near identical. There is a slight difference in rifling. If I remember correctly, the USP has polygonal rifling, where this HK45 looks to me like it has standard rifling. I might be totally wrong on that. They might both be polygonal rifling, but in this case, it does look standard to me. So there is a slight difference there, but I have not seen any issues with accuracy. They're both about matched. It's going to outshoot you most definitely, and that's just the way it is with these guns. I will give the win as far as sights goes to the HK45. I am a huge fan of their suppressor height sights. They are still adjustable for elevation in the rear, but you have an awesome high visibility white tritium dot up in the front and then a U-notch in the back. In my opinion, that is just a far superior sight to have on their tactical models. In this case, in the USP, you have standard blacked out target sights, but they are suppressor height. I am not a fan of target sights at all. It's just, for me, it's harder to pick up. With speed, I would much prefer something like this. So the win for sights, absolutely out of box, has to go to the HK45. With all of those things considered, which one do I think is the winner? Well, you might already know by how I've been talking about the guns in my post on social media and the fact that I have two USPs, both in 45. I have to say the winner for me is the USP 45. I like the gun better. I think it's like a mini Mark 23, and I love the Mark 23. I think it's a very cool gun. So not only does this have the durability for me, but it also has the cool factor going for it. Now, I have to say, I have had some malfunctions with this gun that I made everybody aware of in my last video that I dropped on it. It was when I was running it suppressed with the Dead Air Ghost 45, and I have run this suppressor in the exact same setup on the HK 45, and I have never, ever, ever once had a malfunction with it. So take that for what you will. Will the HK 45 be more reliable in the tactical model than the USP? I don't know. Time will tell. But at the moment, I still loved the USP over the HK-45. Still would never sell this, but I do think that when HK designed this pistol, in a lot of ways, it was somewhat of a step back when it came to capacity, when it came to just ruggedness and durability. This is still a great, durable gun, but I do think the USP just kind of beats it out a little bit in just being built like a freaking tank with the recoil system, the mass of the slide. It's just a tank. Let me know what you guys think. That's going to wrap this video up. Put your comments down below. Which one do you like better, the USP or the HK-45? I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. If you have any other questions about these guns or anything else on the channel, throw them down below. You guys know I will get back to you. While you're down there, head up to the description, check out those links, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.